The applause thundered through the grand auditorium, vibrating right through the soles of my shoes. I stood in the deep shadows at the very back of the room, my arms crossed, watching the stage lights catch the sharp, perfect angles of my wife's tailored suit. Claire looked magnificent. She commanded the podium with the kind of absolute authority that made people lean forward in their seats. Miller Tech was her kingdom, and tonight she was presenting our highest quarterly earnings yet. My private phone vibrated inside my breast pocket. I stepped further into the dim corridor behind the seating area before pulling it out. The screen read Marcus. I slid my thumb across to answer. "Hey, Marcus," I murmured, keeping my voice low. "Are you still standing in the back like a ghost?" "Owen," my brother's voice boomed softly but sharply through the receiver. "I just saw the live stream link. She didn't even mention your name during the operational review. You built that entire logistics framework from scratch." I leaned my back against the cold corridor wall, staring at the double doors leading to the cheering crowd. "It doesn't matter, Marcus. It's her night. She's the CEO. I'm just the head of operations on paper." "No, you are the majority shareholder and the ultimate chairman of Vance Investment Group." Marcus snapped, his frustration palpable. "You are the only reason Miller Tech hasn't filed for bankruptcy 3 times over. How long are you going to keep playing this humble employee game, little brother? She treats you like a servant. I wanted her to love me for who I am, not for the Vance family capital," I whispered, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. "If I tell her the truth now, I'll never know if what we have is real or just a transactional arrangement." "Owen, wake up." Marcus sighed, his tone softening into genuine concern. "Look at the way she speaks to you at home. Look at how she minimizes your worth. You are hiding your own power to protect a fantasy. Just promise me you won't let her push you over the edge tonight." "I can handle Claire. Marcus, I'll call you after the reception." I cut the call before he could argue, sliding the phone back into my jacket. I pushed through the heavy stage-left door, navigating the narrow, dimly lit backstage hallway. The roar of the final ovation faded as Claire walked off the main stage, surrounded by a small entourage of glowing executives. The moment her sharp eyes locked onto me, her triumphant smile vanished, replaced by a cool, professional mask. She waved the executives away with a quick flick of her wrist and walked straight toward me. "Owen, you stayed in the back again," she said, her voice clipped as she adjusted her diamond cufflink. "I needed you at the front table to handle the technical questions from the regional directors." "You did perfectly fine without me, Claire," I said, offering a small smile. "Congratulations on the presentation. The quarterly numbers look incredible." "Of course they do. I spent the last 3 weeks fixing your sloppy operational forecasts," she said, stepping past me in her private green room. I followed her inside, closing the door behind us to shut out the backstage noise. She immediately threw her leather folder onto the vanity table. "Sit down, Owen. We need to discuss the restructuring plan before the board dinner begins." I remained standing, my hands slipped into my pockets. "Restructuring? We didn't talk about any new restructuring this week." "Because I knew you would drag your feet," Claire said, turning around to face me, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. "The board wants to see immediate cost-cutting measures in the logistics sector. I am eliminating the head of operations position entirely. I need you to sign away your operational control and transfer the department oversight directly to my office." I stared at her, a cold knot tightening in my stomach. "You want to fire your own husband from the company he helped build?" "Don't be dramatic, Owen. It's a strategic business move," she said coldly, her eyes devoid of any personal warmth. "You will still have a minor advisory role, but you won't have any actual decision-making power or operational vetoes. We need to save the budget, and your salary and authority are simply too high for what you actually contribute." "What I contribute?" I felt a dangerous spark ignite beneath my calm exterior. "I spent the last 4 years optimizing our supply chain, so you could stand on that stage tonight and brag about efficiency. I gave up my own personal time, my weekends, and my own ambitions to secure your position as CEO. And I gave you a respectable job at a tech firm, didn't I?" Claire countered, her voice rising, sharp and laced with disdain. "Let's be completely honest for once. You got lucky when you married me. You are a plain, uninspired manager who belongs in a warehouse, not a boardroom. You don't possess the vision required to scale this company globally. I need someone with real ambition in that seat, not someone who is content being average. The words cut deep, but they didn't break me. Instead, they brought a strange, numbing clarity. I looked at my wife, the woman I had quietly protected with millions of dollars of hidden Vance funding, and realized she saw absolutely nothing when she looked at me. Is that truly how you see me, Claire? I asked, my voice dropping to a quiet whisper. Just a lucky manager? I see the reality of the metrics. Owen, she huffed, turning away to check her reflection in the mirror. The paperwork for the voluntary transition of power is on your desk. I expect it signed before tomorrow morning's opening bell. Don't embarrass me by making this difficult. Understand, I said softly, stepping back toward the door. I'll review the documents. Good. Now go get the car, she said without looking back. I don't want to be late for the VIP guests. I walked out into the chilly night air, pulling out my phone. I dialed my brother. Marcus, I said as soon as he picked up. Get the Vance legal team ready. The game is over. The glass doors of the executive boardroom slid open with a soft hiss. I took my seat at the far end of the long mahogany table, watching the senior board members murmur in hushed, anxious tones. Claire sat at the head of the table, her fingers tapping a sharp, impatient rhythm against her tablet screen. Thank you all for rushing here on such short notice, Claire announced, her voice echoing off the glass walls. Today marks a massive pivot for Miller Tech. To survive in the current market, we must integrate next-generation artificial intelligence into our core framework. That is why I am introducing our new visionary partner, the CEO of Sterling AI, Victor Sterling. The side door opened, and a tall man with a meticulously tailored charcoal suit and a sharp, practiced smile stepped into the room. My hands instinctively clenched into fists beneath the table. Victor Sterling, Claire's ex-boyfriend. The man who had broken her heart years ago and nearly ruined her family's finances before I ever stepped into the picture. Thank you, Claire, Victor drawled, casting a smooth, theatrical glance around the room before his eyes locked onto me with an unmistakable glint of mockery. It's an absolute honor. Now, looking over Miller Tech's current infrastructure, I see a massive, bloated problem. Your operations are slow, traditional, and entirely outdated. He flicked his wrist, projecting a flashy, colorful presentation onto the main screen. My platform, Sterling AI, will automate 90% of your logistics, Victor continued, pacing the room with an arrogant swagger. Of course, some traditional managers who love doing things the old, slow way will object. But frankly, we don't have time to coddle basic warehouse mentalities if we want to scale. A few board members glanced uncomfortably toward me. I kept my voice steady, leaning forward. Victor, I've actually reviewed the public data on Sterling AI's architecture. Your automation model has a 40% error rate in high-volume testing. Our current traditional logistics system runs at a flawless 99% efficiency. Why should we replace a proven framework with a failing experiment? Victor chuckled softly, shaking his head with an air of patronizing pity. Owen, this is exactly what I meant by a basic warehouse mentality. You're looking at the minor details of yesterday instead of the grand vision of tomorrow. Claire, is this the kind of narrow-minded thinking that holds your operational sector back? Owen, that's enough. Claire snapped from the head of the table, her glare cutting right through me. Victor is looking at the macro scaling of this company. Your traditional metrics are irrelevant to our long-term survival. I brought Victor here to lead us forward, not to be cross-examined by someone who doesn't understand venture capital. Claire, I understand capital perfectly fine, I said, my voice dropping an octave as I looked directly at her. I strongly advise the board to run a full independent forensic audit on Sterling AI before signing any contracts. This meeting is adjourned. Claire cut me off coldly, standing up and sweeping her tablet into her leather portfolio. The executive committee will review the final partnership details privately. The board members filed out of the room in an awkward silence. Victor lingered by the door, adjusting his silk tie as he looked at me with a victorious grin. Good effort, Owen. But sometimes the big boys play a different game. See you around. I didn't answer him. I waited until the heavy double doors clicked shut, leaving only Claire and me in a vast, empty boardroom. The afternoon sun cast long, tense shadows across the table. Are you completely out of your mind, Claire? I asked, standing up and walking toward her. Victor's company is bleeding cash. His proprietary tech is a complete ghostware wrapper. He is using you to bail himself out a massive debt spiral. You are just pathetic and jealous. Owen, Claire yelled, turning on me with absolute fury in her eyes. You've always been insecure about Victor because he has the kind of elite pedigree and business brilliance you could never dream of achieving. He is a visionary. You are just a glorified supervisor. This isn't about jealousy, Claire. This is about the survival of Miller Tech. I countered, slamming my hand down on the mahogany surface. I looked at the leaked financial sheets from his primary broker. If you tie our company to his startup, he will drag us under the water with him. Claire let out a cold, mocking laugh, stepping right up to my face. He isn't dragging us under, Owen, because I'm going to save him. I've already instructed the Treasury Department to execute a capital transfer. We are emptying our core operational reserves to fund Sterling AI's expansion immediately. The air left my lungs as if I had been physically struck. You're emptying our reserves? $30 million? That requires a full board vote and an official sign-off from our primary investment partner. You can't just bypass legal protocol for your ex-boyfriend's failing company. I am the CEO, Owen. I make the protocol, she screamed, her face flushed with blind ambition. Vance Investment Group won't find out until the quarterly audit next month, and by then, Victor's stock will have tripled after the public announcement. I am tired of your cheap, fearful, peasant mindset holding my career back. I am doing this, and if you try to stand in my way, I will ruin you. I stared at the woman I loved, feeling the final, fragile threads of our marriage snap cleanly in half. The hurt inside my chest hardened into a heavy, unbreakable block of solid ice. You're right, Claire, I said, my voice eerily calm as I picked up my phone. You are the CEO. You get to make the choices. Let's see how they play out. The backstage, chaotic energy of the grand auditorium swirled around me like a storm. Technicians rushed past carrying cables, and production assistants barked orders into their headsets. Miller Tech's live-streamed Global Town Hall was about to begin, and the broadcast was already beaming out to tens of thousands of viewers, shareholders, and tech journalists worldwide. I stood near the equipment racks, watching the countdown timer tick down on a nearby monitor. Well, look who finally decided to show up. A sharp, aristocratic voice cutting through the noise sneered. I turned around to see Eleanor Miller, my mother-in-law, standing there with her arms crossed, looking at me as if I were dirt on her expensive designer shoes. Hello, Eleanor, I said, keeping my voice perfectly calm. I didn't know you were attending the internal corporate broadcast today. I am here to support my daughter's global debut, Owen, Eleanor hissed, stepping closer so the technicians wouldn't hear her. Unlike you, who just clings to her coattails like a parasite. Look at you, standing here in a cheap off-the-rack suit while Claire is about to change the entire industry. You have always been a stain on her career, a complete embarrassment to our family name. I built the infrastructure that keeps this company alive. Eleanor, I countered, looking down at her. Claire knows exactly how much work I put into this place. Please, she laughed mockingly. Claire is finally waking up to reality. A real woman of her status needs a powerful visionary like Victor Sterling by her side, not a pathetic, small-minded clerk. Mark my words, Owen, your little free ride in our world is coming to a very abrupt end tonight. Before I could answer her, the stage manager shouted, "We are live in 5, 4, 3. He pointed directly at the stage. Claire walked out into the brilliant spotlight to a roaring ovation from the live audience. On the main monitor, I could see the live chat scrolling at lightning speed. She held the microphone with absolute confidence. Welcome, everyone, to the dawn of a new Miller Tech. Claire's voice boomed over the speakers. Today, we are announcing a total structural evolution. To fund our massive new partnership with Sterling AI, we are entirely purging our outdated traditional sectors. I frowned, a sudden cold pit opening up in my stomach as she continued. To prove our total commitment to this future, I am announcing a major leadership change live right now, Claire said, looking directly toward the backstage camera. We are eliminating our traditional logistics branch. Therefore, I am officially firing our head of operations, Owen Vance, effective immediately. The entire auditorium gasped. I froze, my heart stopping completely as my face appeared on the giant broadcast screen next to her. Owen has been an operational roadblock who simply lacks the modern vision required to scale this business globally, Claire stated coldly, her voice echoing through the speakers without a single hint of hesitation or remorse. We need elite minds for an elite future. We wish him the best in his future entry-level endeavors. The live stream chat instantly exploded with brutal mockery. Who is this absolute loser? Imagine getting fired live by your own boss on air. Good riddance to the dead weight. Eleanor let out a sharp, triumphant laugh right next to me. I told you so, Owen. You're completely finished. I didn't hear Eleanor's voice anymore. I didn't even feel the hot, stinging sting of public humiliation. Instead, a freezing, absolute clarity washed over my entire body. I looked up from the monitor and stared directly down the barrel of the main studio camera lens. In that single, silent second, all the lingering love, all the patience, and every single piece of hope I had held onto for our marriage died completely. Claire hadn't just fired an employee. She had publicly sacrificed her own husband on the altar of her blind ambition and her ex-boyfriend's greed. She wanted a public execution to prove her loyalty to Victor. I quietly turned away from the stage, my face showing absolutely no emotion. Where do you think you're going, loser? Eleanor snapped, trying to step into my path. Aren't you going to stay and watch the rest of my daughter's brilliant triumph? I stopped and looked down at her, my eyes so cold that she actually took a step back in shock. Tell Claire to enjoy her broadcast, I whispered, my voice sounding like cracking ice. Because this is the absolute highest peak her life will ever reach. You're just speaking out of pure jealousy. Eleanor yelled after me as I walked away. You're nobody, Owen. You are absolutely nothing without us. I kept walking, pushing through the heavy exit doors and leaving the loud, cheering arena behind me. The cool night air hit my face, refreshing and clean. I pulled my phone out of my pocket with a steady hand. My fingers didn't tremble at all. I dialed the private number that I had kept hidden for 4 long years. My brother answered on the very first ring. Owen, I just saw the live stream. I am so sorry, man. That absolute monster just humiliated you in front of the entire world. Don't be sorry, Marcus, I said, a dark, dangerous smile finally tugging at the corners of my lips as I walked toward the parking lot. She just gave me the perfect legal reason to completely destroy her. Is the Vance Investment Group legal team ready? They've been waiting for your word for months, Chairman, Marcus replied, his tone instantly switching from worried brother to a sharp, ruthless corporate executive. What are your executive orders? Call our main banking partners immediately, I commanded, stepping into my car and starting the engine. Instruct them to freeze all pending capital transfers to Miller Tech. Then, arrange an emergency meeting with their board for tomorrow morning. I'm going to personally cancel her multi-million-dollar acquisition deal and take back everything that belongs to me. Understood, brother, Marcus laughed darkly. Welcome back to the boardroom. My cardboard box felt heavy as I walked out of the side entrance. The cold night air didn't even register. I was just numb. Owen, wait up. I turned around to see Brooke Davis running down the concrete steps, her breathing ragged, holding a sleek black flash drive in her hand. Her face was flushed with anger. Brooke, what are you doing out here? I asked, setting the box down on the hood of my car. You shouldn't be seen with a company outcast. I don't care about that corporate garbage, Brooke said, her voice trembling with disgust. What Claire did to you on that live stream was absolutely vile. The entire analytics department is horrified. She threw you under the bus to appease that fraud, Victor. It's just business to her, Brooke, I replied quietly. No, it's madness, she insisted, thrusting the flash drive into my hand. Take this. I pulled the raw, unedited financial logs before Victor's team could encrypt them. Victor isn't building AI, Owen. He's routing Miller Tech's core operational reserves through offshore shell companies. He's actively stealing from us. I looked at the drive, a sharp, cold focus returning to my mind. You risked your job to get this for me. You're the only executive who ever listened to us, Owen. You protected our department, Brooke said firmly. Claire is blind, but I refuse to watch this company burn for her ex. What are you going to do? I'm going to fix it, I said, looking her in the eyes. Keep your head down tomorrow. Don't mention my name to anyone. I promise you, your job is safe. Good luck, Owen, she said before turning back toward the building. I got into my car and drove straight to the glass tower of Vance Investment Group. Taking the private executive elevator, I rode it all the way to the top floor. Marcus was waiting in his sprawling corner office, pacing in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows. Tell me you brought the hammer, Marcus said the second I stepped inside. I brought something better, I said, tossing Brooke's flash drive onto his heavy mahogany desk. Unedited logs. Victor is already siphoning the $30 million Claire transferred to him. Marcus sat down, immediately plugging the drive into his laptop. His eyes scanned the scrolling text, his jaw clenching. This is absolute fraud. Claire completely bypassed our master covenants to authorize this. She has no idea. She just violated the primary terms of our financing agreement. She thinks she bypassed protocol because I was the only roadblock, I said, leaning over the desk. She doesn't know Vance Investment Group holds the veto power. She's about to find out, Marcus said, pulling up a thick leather-bound folder from his drawer. Here is the master contract for the multi-million-dollar acquisition of the logistics expansion she's executing tomorrow. Without our capital injection, Miller Tech won't just stall, they will default on their short-term commercial paper by Friday afternoon. Let me see the termination clause, I demanded. Marcus flipped to the final page, pointing his pen at the signature line. Section 14. Material misrepresentation of company reserves and unauthorized capital allocation. Because she moved that $30 million to Sterling AI without our board's explicit written approval, you have the total legal authority to pull the plug instantly. Is the legal team fully briefed? I asked. Every single corporate attorney on our payroll is standing by. Owen, Marcus smiled darkly. The moment you sign this executive order, the funding platform locks down. Claire's big acquisition meeting tomorrow morning will turn into a corporate execution. Are you completely ready for this? There's no going back. This will bankrupt her. I picked up the heavy gold pin resting on the desk. The image of Claire smiling proudly on that stage while she publicly humiliated me flashed through my mind. I remembered her telling me I was just a plain, uninspired manager who got lucky by marrying her. The memory didn't hurt anymore. It just felt like a distant, irrelevant noise. She told the world I lacked vision. Marcus, I said, my voice completely steady. Let's see how her vision holds up when the money disappears. I pressed the pen to the paper and signed my name firmly across the bottom line. The ink dried instantly. It's done, Marcus said, taking the document and stamping it with the official red seal of the Vance Group. The order is officially logged in the system. The capital transfer is terminated. What time is her meeting tomorrow with our representatives? I asked, straightening my cuffs. 9 o'clock sharp at her main boardroom, Marcus replied, looking up at me with a proud grin. She thinks she's meeting our senior managing partners to sign the final wire release. Change the schedule, I commanded, walking toward the office door. Tell the partners to stay home. I will be attending that meeting alone. You want to deliver the notice yourself? Marcus asked. I want to see the exact moment she realizes who the lucky manager actually is, I said, turning back to him. Have Brooke Davis transferred to our primary asset management team first thing in the morning. I don't want her caught in the crossfire when Miller Tech collapses. Consider it done, Chairman, Marcus said. I walked out of the tower, feeling the crushing weight of the last 4 years completely dissolve. I wasn't the invisible anchor holding up her sinking ship anymore. I was the storm. The atmosphere in Miller Tech's executive suite was festive. Waiters in crisp uniforms circulated with trays of expensive champagne, their crystal glasses clinking softly. Claire stood by the window, her laughter ringing out across the room, louder and more triumphant than usual. Victor stood right beside her, an arm casually resting behind her chair, looking like a man who had just conquered the corporate world. To the future of Miller Tech, Victor raised his glass, toast ready, and to the complete elimination of our operational deadweight. Cheers to that, Victor, Claire beamed, clinking her glass against his. Without Owen dragging us down, the Vance Investment Group partners are practically begging to hand over the final capital wires today. I told you, babe, Victor grinned, adjusting his cuffs. Once you act like an elite executive, the elite money follows. The Vance chairman's representatives should be walking through those double doors any second now to finalize the acquisition. I still can't believe how easy it was to cut the logistics budget, Claire laughed, taking a long sip. Owen truly believed he was irreplaceable. Now he's probably sitting in some cramped apartment, completely lost without my company. The heavy mahogany double doors at the end of the room suddenly clicked open. The chatter in the room instantly died down as everyone turned to greet the mysterious executives. I walked into the boardroom alone, dressed in a custom, sharp midnight blue suit that cost more than my previous annual salary. I kept my expression entirely unreadable, my steps slow, steady, and deliberate as I approached the long table. Owen, Claire stammered, her smile freezing instantly as her champagne glass nearly slipped from her fingers. What the hell are you doing here? Security. Who let a terminated employee into a secure executive meeting? Save your breath, Claire, I said, my voice echoing coldly off the glass walls. The security guards outside work for the building's parent company, Vance Properties. They answer to me. Victor let out a loud, mocking laugh, though his eyes darted nervously toward the empty hallway behind me. Are you completely delusional, man? Did getting fired live on air drive you insane? This is a private multi-million-dollar acquisition meeting with Vance Investment Group. Get your pathetic warehouse supervisor face out of our boardroom before I have you thrown out myself. You aren't throwing anyone out, Victor, I said quietly. I walked straight to the very head of the mahogany table, the large, high-backed leather chair reserved strictly for the highest-ranking executive in the room. I pulled it out, sat down comfortably, and crossed my legs, resting my hands flat on the polished wood. Owen, stop playing these ridiculous, childish games, Claire yelled, her face flushing crimson as she stormed toward me. Get out of that chair right now. That seat is reserved exclusively for the chairman of Vance Investment Group. I know exactly who this seat is for, Claire, I replied, looking directly into her frantic eyes. Because I am the chairman. The entire room went completely silent. You could hear a pin drop on the thick carpet. What? Claire whispered, her voice cracking as she stared at me. No, that's impossible. You're just Owen. You're a plain, average manager. You've been working under me for 4 years. I funded your entire startup 4 years ago through my family's private equity firm, I said, my voice stripped of any warmth. I hid my true status because I wanted to know if you loved me for the man I was or the capital I possessed. You answered that question very clearly in front of the entire world last night. This is a lie, a cheap, desperate scam, Victor shouted, his face turning pale as he stepped forward, pointing an aggressive finger at me. Claire, don't listen to him. He's just trying to sabotage our signature event because he's jealous. If it's a scam, Victor, then why did your primary offshore bank accounts just get flagged by our compliance team? I asked, pulling a thick leather folder out of my breast pocket. I unclasped the folder and slid a heavy document across the smooth wood, watching it skid right to the center of the table, stopping directly in front of Claire. What is this? Claire trembled, her hands shaking violently as she picked up the document. Open it and read the bold text at the top. Claire, I commanded. She tore the pages open, her eyes scanning the lines. Notice of immediate financing termination. Material breach of contract. Section 14. Fraudulent capital allocation. She looked up at me, the color completely draining from her lips. Owen, please, what does this mean? It means your multi-million-dollar acquisition deal is officially dead, I said, leaning forward. You transferred $30 million of Miller Tech's core operational reserves to Sterling AI without the explicit, written consent of your primary investor, Vance Investment Group. That is a fatal breach of our master funding covenant. I have officially canceled the acquisition, frozen the capital wires, and called in our existing loans. As of 9 o'clock this morning, Miller Tech is completely insolvent. Insolvent, Claire shrieked, dropping the papers as if they had burned her. No, we will go completely bankrupt by Friday. Everything I built, everything my family worked for, gone? Exactly, I said coldly. Victor stared at the legal document on the table, his breathing growing rapid and shallow. He looked at Claire, then back at me, realizing the absolute ruin staring him in the face. Without saying a single word to Claire, Victor quietly grabbed his briefcase from his side table, turned on his heel, and practically sprinted out the double doors, abandoning her completely. Victor? Victor, wait. Where are you going? Claire cried out, watching him flee. She turned back to me, falling to her knees right beside my chair, tears streaming down her face. Owen, please. I was pressured by my mother. Victor tricked me. We're married, Owen. You can't do this to your own wife. You aren't my wife anymore, Claire, I said, standing up and looking down at her. You're just a former business partner who defaulted on her debt. My phone buzzed heavily on the sleek desk, casting a rhythmic shadow across the glass. Claire's name flashed across the screen for the 10th consecutive time. I let out a long, quiet breath, reached down, and slid my thumb to answer. Owen, oh my God. Owen, please don't hang up. Her voice erupted into the quiet room, sounding completely broken and breathless from crying. You have to listen to me. The board filed for emergency bankruptcy protection this morning, and the liquidators are changing the locks on the doors. I know, Claire, I said, my voice flat and devoid of any emotion. I signed the core liquidation mandate 2 hours ago. Owen, please, we can fix this, she sobbed frantically, her voice crackling over the speaker. I was completely manipulated. My mother kept telling me I needed someone elite, and Victor lied about everything. He promised the AI stock would save us. I never wanted to hurt you, I swear. I was just confused. I let out a soft, sharp laugh that cut right through her sobbing. Confused? Claire, you looked directly into a global broadcast camera lens and fired your own husband to impress your ex-boyfriend. Was that his manipulation, or was it your own pure vanity? I was stupid. I was blindly ambitious, she begged, her voice rising in absolute desperation. Please, Owen, we're still legally married. You are a multi-millionaire, the chairman of Vance Investment Group. You can clear the company's bad debts with a single executive signature. My mother is losing her house, and the bank is freezing our personal accounts. It's absolute humiliation. The liquidators are simply doing their job, Claire, I replied, staring out at the expansive city skyline. You violated the primary legal covenants, and Victor has already been arrested at the airport, trying to flee the country with your remaining capital. Your mother's house was put up as collateral for his shell companies. Actions have consequences. How can you be so incredibly cold to me? She shrieked, her desperate sadness twisting into a flash of familiar, ugly rage. You lied to me for 4 years. You let me believe you were just a regular manager. You set me up to fail. I never lied to you, Claire. I simply lived within my means to see if your love was real. I said, my voice completely steady. And you showed the entire world exactly what your love is worth. You loved a corporate title, and when you thought I didn't have one, you tried to destroy my dignity on a live stream. Owen, please, she whimpered, her anger collapsing back into a pathetic whisper. I love you. I don't care about the company anymore. Just come home. Let's just talk in person, please. You don't have a home anymore, Claire, I said, each word dropping like solid ice. And there is no us left to salvage. You demanded my absolute submission, and now you have absolute ruin. Goodbye. I ended the call, opened her profile, and hit the block button. The silence that instantly filled the room was the most satisfying sound I had heard in years. I leaned back in my leather chair, a massive weight completely lifting off my chest. The heavy glass door of my new office swung open. Marcus walked in, followed closely by Brooke Davis, who was holding a freshly printed corporate folder. "The transition is officially complete, Chairman," Marcus said, a triumphant grin spreading across his face. "Miller Tech's viable assets have been fully absorbed into Vance Investment Group. Every single line worker and warehouse employee keeps their job under our new management." "And the analytics department?" I asked, looking up at Brooke. "Fully integrated, Owen." Brooke smiled warmly, setting the folder on my desk. "We've already purged all of Victor's fraudulent software loops. The logistics network is running at a perfect 99% efficiency again under the new Vance framework. Thank you for saving our jobs." "You earned it, Brooke," I said, opening the folder to review the clean metrics. "Your data is the reason we locked the trap so quickly." "Marcus, what's the status on Eleanor?" Completely finished in the high society circles, Marcus laughed, sitting on the edge of the desk. The moment the foreclosure notice hit her country club address, her elite friends vanished overnight. She and Claire are learning exactly what it feels like to start from the absolute bottom without your money. "Good," I murmured, closing the file. Justice took its course naturally. I stood up from my chair and walked over to the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at the bright afternoon sun reflecting off the harbor. The corporate storm had completely passed, leaving behind a beautifully clear, open sky. For 4 long years, I had hidden my true self, shrinking my own identity to fit into a relationship built entirely on an ambitious lie. I had tolerated the quiet insults, the patronizing glares, and the arrogance of a family that viewed me as disposable dead weight. But I had survived their worst blow. I had stood my ground, protected my family's legacy, and reclaimed my absolute authority with my head held high. "We're heading down to the main boardroom for the welcome address, Owen," Marcus said, walking toward the door with Brooke. "The team is waiting to finally meet the real chairman." "Coming." "Go ahead, Marcus," I replied, turning back to him with a genuine, relaxed smile. "I'll be down in just a minute." I watched them leave, the glass door clicking shut behind them. I looked down at my hands, clean and completely free of the wedding band I had discarded days ago. I didn't have to play the role of the silent anchor anymore. I didn't have to defend my worth to people who couldn't see past a bank statement. I walked toward the door, stepping out into the bright, bustling hallway of my own company, finally ready to live my life entirely on my own terms.